This presentation is going to cover the materials used for thermal insulation in roofs. The thermal insulation in roofs used in Egypt are rock wool, glass wool, extruded polystyrene, polyethylene, and fiberglass. Rock wool is a material made of volcanic rock, typically basalt or dolomite, and it's composed of recycled materials made from slag and waste product made from blast furnaces. These materials are melted and spun into fibers, and a resin binds them together to form an insulation mat. They can come in the form of boards, blankets, rolls with wire mesh, or mattresses. These are the primary form used for thermal insulation in roofing. Rock wool became available in Egypt through import in the late 1980s, and production began in Egypt in the early 2000s. Rock wool is provided by a number of companies such as Ahad Engineering and Contracting, Glassrock Co., Egyptian Rock Wool Factory, Al Alamiya, and Isothermica. These are pictures of the different forms of rock wool. And here are other images taken at the factory. The cost of rock wool depends on the facing, thickness, and density, as well as dimensions. For rock wool blankets that are 100 kilograms per meter cubed with aluminum thickness 0.8 millimeters, the price ranges from 95 to 129 pounds per meter squared. For preformed perlite, an aluminum sheet of thickness 0.6 millimeters, the price ranges from 61 to 146 pounds per meter squared. For rock wool blankets that are 100 kilograms per meter cubed, an aluminum sheet thickness of 1 millimeter, the price ranges from 69 to 163 for each blanket. For a double flange box, it's 52 to 129. And for elbow 90 boxes, it's also around 52 to 137 pounds. For heat exchanger sand manholes, it's 100 pounds per meter squared. And for side glass insulation, it's around 113 pounds per meter squared. It functions not only as thermal insulation. It can be used for insulation for heat, sound, fire, and also damp proofing. And as well as being used in roofs, it's used for other construction parts and industrial areas, process equipment, boilers, and insulation in ducts. It is particularly good for insulation in facilities which are exposed to high temperatures. The thermal conductivity of rock wool ranges between 0.034 and 0.04 watts per meter Kelvin. The density ranges from 32 to 200 kilograms per meter cubed. The thickness can range from 2.5 to 20 centimeters. The dimensions are usually 1200. It can be 1200 by 3000, 5000, or even 8000 millimeters, as well as other possible dimensions as they could be customized. And also different facings can be used, such as wire mesh, aluminum foil, craft paper, and glass tissue. It has a maximum service temperature of 750 degrees Celsius, making it a very good thermal insulator. It's non-combustible, and it is quite water repellent. It doesn't encourage fungi growth, and it is, although it's slightly alkaline, it's not very corrosive. Its compression resistance ranges from 15 to 40 kilopascals at 10% deformation. It's non-corrosive, it doesn't rust, and it's non-combustible. And it doesn't encourage the growth of bacteria or microorganisms due to its inorganic structure. And it can last for up to for a minimum of 10 years as long as it's not damaged or wet. Rock wool boards, in terms of packaging, they should be supplied in shrink-wrapped polyethylene, and they should be stored in their packaging. They should be protected from the weather and off the ground. If they get wet, they should be dried, and they can still be used without any changes to their properties. The minimum order quantity is 1 container or 1 truck, and it can be delivered 1 to 2 weeks after confirmation. Um, in terms of manufacturing, melted minerals and inorganic volcanic stones are melted at very high temperatures and then later shaped and binded into fibers as mattresses or boards or in loose form. Pins are used in the installation process to fix them in place, and they can be covered with a metal sheet. No special equipment or labor is required for installing this material. The advantages of this product is it has a very low thermal conductivity and it's suitable for very high temperatures. It's non-combustible, it's quite denser than glass wool. It has more uses than glass wool, and it's available in many forms. It has a high compressive strength and it's environmentally friendly as it uses up recycled waste material, and it's free of ozone depleting materials. And it protects materials that are underneath it from overheating or self-igniting during a fire. The second material being discussed is glass wool. It's made of sand, recycled glass, limestone, and soda ash. These are spun into fine fibers and also bound by a resin to form a mat. The density determines whether it's a lightweight quilt, such as a roll or a flexible slab, or a rigid slab, which is more heavyweight, and each determines its thermal capacity. It can come in the form of boards or blankets. Boards are more commonly used for thermal insulation, and especially in roofing. Glassrock Co. is the only company in Egypt that supplies and produces in Egypt, and production began in July 2012. Here are pictures of the glass wool rolls and boards. Depending on the density and thickness and facing of the glass wool, the cost of the boards will range between 40 cents to $4 per meter squared, which is approximately 2.7 to 27 pounds per meter squared. It is used not only for thermal insulation, but can also be used for other functions such as acoustic insulation and fire protection, and in many structures, including steel structures and HVAC, as well as suspended ceilings and prefab houses, among others. The density of glass wool ranges between 24 and 96 kilograms per meter cubed. The length and width are 1200 by 600 millimeters respectively. There are many different facings that can be used, and the thickness of the boards can range between 25 to 100 millimeters. The maximum service temperature of glass wool is significantly lower than that of rock wool with 450 degrees Celsius. However, it is a good fire retardant and it is non-combustible. It doesn't encourage fungi growth and it is chemically inert, so it does not corrode. It has also a very low moisture absorption. The thermal resistance is demonstrated in the table, depending on its thickness, and it can range from 0.7 to 2.857. The safety of glass wool and durability is quite high, as they're odorless, they're non-hygroscopic and rat-proof. They're non-corrosive. They last for a minimum of 10 years as long as they are not damaged or wet. They are also free of any material with ozone depletion potential. However, the problem with fiberglass is that it may cause irritation to the eyes, skin, and respiratory system. So necessary safety measures are required during installation. They're supplied in shrink-wrapped polyethylene. They need to be stored in their original packaging, and they should be protected from the weather and off the ground. If they get wet, they can be dried, and no changes from their properties will occur. To be manufactured, glass wool has Natural sand, recycled glass, and limestone and ash are melted together at a very high temperature. A high-speed spinning wheel forces it through a fine mesh, and it's cemented. The fibers are cemented together using a resin. Um, the wool is then cut and packed into rolls or panels under high temperature, depending on the use. The boards to be installed, the boards should be spread across the roof with their packaging still on. Only one pack should be opened at any one time. They can be installed in 2 layers across the roofing, across the unfinished floor, and each layer can be placed perpendicular to the other to prevent heat bridging. There should be clear space around cables and electrical equipment. This is to reduce the risk of fire and allow heat to dissipate. The boards should extend about 50 millimeters past the internal face of the walls. For maintenance and precautions, the boards should not be compressed so that they can maintain their properties and should be kept dry. The boards should be butted together when different building elements meet. And no gaps should be left in the installation to ensure that the best performance. During installation, the labor should be wearing eye protection, long sleeve clothing, and trousers, as well as gloves and masks to avoid any irritation to the skin, eyes, or respiratory system. The advantages of using glass wool is that it has a long fiber, so it has a good tear strength or tensile strength. It's suitable for temperatures that are up to 400 degrees Celsius. It's non-combustible. It's lightweight, and it's available in rolls or slabs. It's cheaper than rock wool, and it's also considered more aesthetically valuable than rock wool. The third material is extruded polystyrene. It is one of the 4 major rigid plastic foam insulations, and although each has its own characteristics and specific advantages and disadvantages, extruded polystyrene, or XPS, has very high benefits for many applications due to the unique extrusion process. It's provided by Modern Waterproofing Group in Egypt, and here are pictures of the boards. The cost is it exceeds $1,400 per meter ton. It functions to resist not only heat but also cold and water, as well as pressure and wearing due to time. The density of XPS can range from 28 to 45 kilograms per meter cube, and depending on its density, if it is high density, it can have an R value that ranges from 0.88 to 0.95, while low density XPS can have an R value that ranges from 0.63 to 0.82, each being used for its specific purpose. The average density is 32 to 36 kilograms per meter cubed, with thermal conductivity ranging or being around 0.028 watts per meter Kelvin. The compressive strength is quite high. It's 300 kilopascals and has a very low water absorption. It's not flammable, and the available dimensions are in the table. Can come as plain, glossy, or embossed or grooved, and it is resistant to water vapor diffusion. However, it does not have a capillary absorbency, but it has a high compressive strength. To manufacture XPS, the foam begins with a solid polystyrene crystals, which are fed into an extruder with special additives and a blowing agent. The mixture is combined and melted under high temperature and pressure into a viscous fluid, and this fluid is forced through a die. As it emerges from the die, it expands to become a foam, which is then shaped and cooled and later trimmed to the necessary dimensions. The foam is has a uniform closed cell structure, a smooth continuous skin, and consistent qualities. For storing and packaging, it's not affected much by the weather. It can be stored outside. However, if prolonged exposure to ultraviolet radiation can cause the surface to become pale and dusty. Unless the surface is eroded or the thickness is reduced, this won't have a significant effect on the insulating value. Before applying adhesives or finishes, any dust should be brushed off, and an opaque protective covering should be used if outdoor exposure periods will be prolonged. To install XPS, it requires a tape measure, a circular saw, and foam board adhesive, drill, and concrete nails. And the beads of the foam board adhesive are added or applied to the back of each sheet, and then reinforced by driving nails or wooden screws through it into the concrete foundation. For maintenance and quality control, although it's resistant to acidic acids and chemicals, it's sensitive to many gases such as chimney gases and methane gases. It should be protected from direct sunlight, and it is combustible and may constitute a fire hazard if not installed properly. It contains a flame retardant additive to inhibit ignition from small fire sources, and should not be exposed to an open flame or any ignition sources during shipping, storing, installation, or use. The advantages of using XPS is that it's durable, water resistant, and has a high compressive strength. The fourth material is polyethylene. It is a chemically cross-linked foam that offers aesthetic appeal as well as an outstanding range of performance characteristics. The smooth surface of this closed cell foam offers it excellent consistency and gauge control, as well as superior physical and chemical properties, low water absorption, and vapor transmission. Here are pictures of the polyethylene. It's provided by ETC, or Engineering Company for Trade and Contracting in Egypt. The cost can be around 60 pounds per meter. However, if it is coated with UV coating, the price could go up to 80 pounds. It functions as thermal insulation as well as other functions such as acoustic or pressure insulation. And it has many uses, not only as insulation but also other things such as prosthetic devices or even running shoes. It is the most effective if it is used as a component of a multi-layered construction scheme. The density ranges from 40 to 45 kilograms per meter cubed. The thickness is usually 5 centimeters, and it forms a thermal proof layer of 3 types, and protection against corrosion in 3 different forms as listed. It's manufactured from man-made particles called polymers. These are joined and stored as a liquid in large mats. To produce the foam, the liquid is heated and pumped through a series of pipes, and then sprayed out onto sheets of heavy paper. After spraying, it is infused with carbon dioxide, which causes it to rise, and then different additional sheets of paper are added to form the foam, and then it is cooled and cut to desired length. It is packed in pelleted bags or bulk containers. They should be stacked, blocked, or interlocked and limited in height so that they're stable and secure against sliding. And the storage area should be dust-free, dry, and with adequate ventilation. And in the absence of sunlight, storage temperatures should preferably be below 40 degrees Celsius. Stacking for loose bags should not exceed more than 5 layers, and And HDPE resin pallets should be stacked with a maximum of two layers. The installation steps are simple. It starts with attaching the air baffles and checking for gaps, and then positioning the foam insulation in place, and then insulating the headers. Different installation methods are required, or modifications are required when applying the material from outside of the roof or at the base of the roof, as demonstrated in the diagrams. This material needs a special equipment called Garco, and a mechanical engineer should be present on site during installation. The advantages of using this material is that it's light and it's durable, and there is no operational cost, and it's quite easily installed. The last material we shall discuss is fiberglass. It's a product that is composed of tan uniformly textured inorganic fibrous glass, and it's formed with a formaldehyde-free binding agent. It's provided by Arabian Fiberglass Insulation Co., which is actually based in Saudi Arabia, but has supplying branches in other countries, including Egypt. The price per square foot of fiberglass can vary between $0.25 to $0.9, depending on thickness and R value. The high performance fiberglass they're intended for use in walls and roof ceilings, especially where maximum thermal and acoustic performance is desired with a limited space. Fiberglass is quite fire resistant, and it is considered non-combustible with very low water vapor absorption. The R value depends on its thickness and dimensions as listed. In terms of packaging and forms, it can come in different colors depending on manufacturer, and it has quite a spongy feel. It's commonly found in blanket form, which is called bats, and which come in available bags and standard pre-cut lengths and widths. It can also come as a loose filled, which can then be blown into the attic or wall or floor cavities. They're usually manufactured with a paper or foil backing which faces the direction of the warmth. This is so that it creates a continuous membrane that prevents the passage of moisture and does not allow fibrous particles to enter the living space, which for safety. And it's important that this backing faces the warm side of the structure so that where the insulation is installed. They're available in different thicknesses, with thicker bats giving a higher thermal resistance. Insulation should be installed without any gaps, including at the corners, and they should be trimmed oversized about 1 inch so that they can fit snugly. The entire cavity should be filled and without any gaps between the insulation and the drywall. It shouldn't be folded or compressed, and they should be delaminated where necessary to fit around wiring. The advantages of this material is that it poses no fire hazard and conserves 12 times as much energy that is lost during production. It reduces residential energy costs by up to 40%, and it costs less than other types of insulation while being easier to install. No maintenance is required as long as it's not wet or contaminated. However, the disadvantages is that it has potential to cause physical harm, because the small fiberglass particles can cause irritation to the skin, which when they lodge in the pores, and they can cause itchiness. Also, they do little to reduce airflow through the walls or ceilings, and they rarely fill the entire cavity where they're installed. They can sometimes permit the development of convective loops, which then degrade its performance over time. There are other types of roof thermal insulation, such as expanded polystyrene or elastomeric rubber. However, these are not commonly found or used in Egypt. among other types. Thank you.